Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Friday webinar, What's New in Creo 4.0, or Introducing Creo 4.0. My name is Rob Romanowski, and I am the Director of Operations for 3HTI. And we are joined today with a couple of fellows from PTC to help us out to introduce and kick off the release of Creo 4.0. Andrew Harrison and Jonathan Conklin, both from the technical sales group of PTC. So we're really glad to have them with us today, and I'm also glad to have everybody joining us today via remote wherever you are. So what we're going to do is starting the first Friday in February, on a weekly basis, we are going to continue to have these webinars focusing on Creo and other PTC solutions such as Navigate. Not all of them will be an hour long. Some of them will be shorter, but with Creo 4.0, there's a lot to get to. So everybody's going to be on mute during the presentation and the live demo. If you have any questions, type those into the dashboard, into the questions section, and we will answer them during the demo if possible. And if we cannot answer them during the demo, they will definitely be answered at the end during the question and answering session. So without any further ado, I'm going to get started. I'm going to run through just a handful of slides real quick, hopefully in about 3.5 minutes, and then we're going to get right to the demonstration portion of our program. So most of the people who are on the line are 3HTI customers, but I noticed that there's a handful of people that are not. And basically, who we are and what we do is we're just trying to help companies live better lives. We are not a peddler of software or 3D printers or any type of product or services. What we really want to do is solve problems. We're not looking to just sell software. We want to help companies maintain a competitive advantage and improve their processes and as well improve their products. Now, the products that we handle are anything within the product development process from design through manufacturing, including 3D printers from Markforged and EnvisionTech, machining solutions from Multicad and NC Simul. We have a whole host of analysis products from Mentor Graphics, as well as the PTC products, host of products and solutions for CAD and PLM. So Creo 4.0 focuses on providing solutions to address the needs of the transformation in business and technologies which companies are taking on their digital engineering journey. So Creo 4 looks to improve productivity across the entire spectrum of the product portfolio as well as the process, address the transformations in manufacturing. Sorry about that, I kind of lost my place there for a minute. Transform from a 2D centric process to a 3D model based enterprise, give designers more tools so they can easily review their designs, and also provide engineers with a clear insight to how their products are being used as their business and their products are transforming on their journey towards smart connected products. There's a lot of new capabilities in Creo 4.0, but I just want to focus on a couple of key items, and most of these you're going to see in the presentation. And one of the things is the user interface. You now interact directly with the model in the graphics area, reducing the mouse travel to the ribbon or model tree, which significantly improves productivity. PTC has also added intelligent mini toolbars that present the most common commands for the appropriate selection right at your fingertips. And this allows you to focus all your efforts on where you're working. Without the need to travel to the ribbon all the time, this means that Creo 4.0 provides a full screen mode. And this was a request of many customers. This allows you to focus primarily and purely on the model. Not all commands are common to everyone though. And that's why in Creo 4, they introduced a full WYSIWYG customization of the mini toolbar and the right mouse button. So these are not just Creo commands. You can also add map keys or even toolkit commands. For concept design, the Freestyle was introduced back with the release of Creo 1, but Freestyle now will load subdivisional data and automatically build the geometry for you, leaving a fully editable control mesh. And this will eliminate time-consuming process of rebuilding models. There's also direct modeling for sheet metal. PTC introduced flexible modeling also back in the version of Creo 1.0, and direct modeling capabilities and workflows were fully integrated into Creo Parametric. This provides users with the power and flexibility to make late-stage design changes to parametric models and make changes to imported models and to simplify models for analysis. So with Creo 4, this was expanded to handle sheet metal parts as well by understanding and maintaining the unique characteristics of sheet metal parts, such as corner reliefs, seams, and uniform material thickness. Sketch-based feature workflows. PTC has continued to evolve and improve the core modeling tools, starting with sketch-based features. Extrude and revolve tools have been enhanced to provide easy in-graphics access to two operations, eliminating the need to travel the ribbon, improving more productivity. Moving side 2 in a negative direction will now remove materials, simplifying your model construction and eliminating the need to construct additional geometry. And finally, adding the ability to extrude to the offset of a reference. Again, this will consolidate multiple tasks and simplify the overall process. The improvement with solid welds. Customers that build large weldments, it is critical to accurately calculate and understand the impact that the welds have on their design. And these welds can add significant weight to the design. So consequently, Creo 4.0 has introduced solid welds, supporting all the existing weld types such as fillet, butt, and plug welds for both parties and assemblies, giving accurate mass properties, including the weld geometry. Creo 4.0 also introduces the additive manufacturing extension, which allows designers to create parametrically controlled 2.5D and 3D lattice structures. And we're going to see a little bit more of this today in the demonstration. A lot of customers and users today are suffering from the burden of having a 2D-centric business practice, and incorrect or misinterpreted 2D drawings can lead to scrapped parts or product failures. Outside the engineering department, companies are suffering from incomplete or inconsistent information and wasting valuable time in an effort to track this down. These companies want and need to transform their business to capture richer information throughout the organization to improve quality and to increase productivity. And we're going to look a little bit more closer also at model-based definition improvements. Creo 4 also sees a huge investment enabling customers to undertake this journey. I'm sorry, I kind of messed up my notes here. So we're going to look more at model-based definition, the standards, the support and workflows in the presentation that Jonathan's going to do for us. With Creo 4.0, they're also integrating Vuforia technology, which will provide the ability to directly publish augmented reality right within Creo. So you can enable or have the ability to visualize your design and share it with your team in a more realistic setting. And also in today's world, you design a typical prototype in a CAD model, for example, but once that product is released to production and it enters into the world, there's no more information gathered from the digital model. Well, imagine being able to have access to real-time continuous feedback from a prototype or products in the field to help you understand and optimize new designs. Maybe there's been a failure in an existing product, but imagine being able to completely reproduce conditions at the time of that failure to better understand the root cause. Creo 4.0 has implemented Internet of Things connectivity capabilities, so that you can replace any assumptions in your design process with actual facts. So at this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass everything over to Jonathan, and he is going to go through the demonstration portion of this webinar. So Jonathan,
all right, yeah,
I pass
thanks,
you
Rob.
control. Sure.
Yeah, so let me just go ahead and share my monitor here. And let me know when you can see that.
I see it.
Okay. So yeah, thanks, Rob. That was a really good introduction. It gives us a really good idea of the agenda today on what we're going to show. And just to do a really quick recap, today I want to show a little bit about part modeling, some advancements that we've done with that within Creo 4. Also, our new mirroring capability, some assembly modeling, how we're dealing with Multicad today, our GD&T with the new extension called GD&T Advisor, and then we're going to close it off with additive manufacturing. So you can see here is the new Creo 4 layout. You can see within our ribbon, there has been some subtle changes. Basically, we just mapped this out so it's fewer clicks for you to be able to get to the things that you need. And so what I'm going to do is start out with the part modeling, and we're going to do that with our wireless camera here. We're going to make some changes to that guy. And you notice as soon as I click, I'm able to quickly activate or open this guy. So just subtle changes within Creo 4 to make your life a little bit easier. Okay, so Rob did talk a little bit about Freestyle, which is our subdivisional modeling tool, and I'm actually going to utilize that today. So I'm going to use that to create a casing around our camera. And so when I go in here, I'm just going to activate this guy and pull up Freestyle. So Freestyle is nothing new. We've had that in earlier versions of Creo. But one thing that is new is the ability to import meshes. So if you're working with partners that are using things like Maya or Rhino, now you can utilize those .obj files, pull those in, and be able to work with those very quickly. So that's new functionality. So you can see now we have this nice casing around our cameras, but there's a little bit of a problem. We have this front face, and we want to actually make these one continuous part. So that's very simple. What I can do is just go ahead and let's just delete those parts out here. So just by simply selecting on those faces, I can grab those and then delete them off. And I can also go down in my tree and let's get rid of that front face so we can see what's really going on here. Okay. So also within Creo 3.0, we also had the ability to grab edges and create some creases. So we could do that as well. And what I actually want to do here is do some mirroring so we can get both sides because we have some symmetry going on. So let's go ahead and do that. So I can box select, and this is a new feature within Creo 3, the ability to box select some different nodes in this case so that you can work on this much quicker. So let's grab some sides, and there we go. And we can toggle and interrogate this model, make this more aesthetically pleasing, things like that. And you can see it's also happening on this side too, nothing new. So again, I'm going to go ahead and cut these back out again now that we mirrored it. Okay, so now we have that all set up, and let's take a look at that crease. So all I'm doing is holding down Control, and you can see I have that crease. I'm getting some feedback. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so I can designate the amount of crease here anywhere from 0 to 100, and you can see it's becoming more and more defined within that model. Okay, so let's get that front surface hooked up again. So this is something that was introduced in Creo 3 as well. We're able to grab these faces and associate these with a tangent line. So I'm just going to grab these edges of my model and then associate that with the front surface. Now we're just going to clean that up a little bit more, so then we'll be all set. So again, I'm going to do that align tangent. Middle mouse button click. And there we go. There's our model. It's all set up. Those are now connected to each other. But we're still within Freestyle. And one of the new things within Creo 4 that we did with Freestyle is the ability to create end-gone edges. So that means I can create as many as I want. And I'm going to show you how I do that here. So I'm just going to select on Add Edge. And you can see this is grabbing immediately the midpoint of these edges of the faces. And I can utilize this to have separate shapes within Freestyle, because that's the idea of Freestyle, right? To be able to model these very quickly into different shapes, different orientations. I can also do some face splits, so anything from 10% to 90%, basically doing an offset of what I see here. And so I have these antennas sticking out because I imported that mesh, but it's not really facilitating for these antennas. So let's fix that up. Let's do an extrude. And we're going to create these mounds, maybe some dimples or something like that, so it makes it look a bit more pleasing. So now we got that set up. All right, so along with that, so I have these this offset that I did. So let's select on those and let's do another crease with that. So again, anywhere from 0 to 100 I can grab. And that's looking pretty good to me. So I'm going to accept that. And then from here I'm back into regular Creo 4.0, and I can do additional features to drive this model. So if I want to do anything like around, I can grab those faces. Let's do it to both sides here, and bam, done. So we pulled in that .obj file for Freestyle, and what I want to do, this is a quilt, so I need to make this more design intent. What we want to do is actually join these two surfaces. So I'm going to grab that quilt, and I'm also going to grab this front surface, and I'm going to merge these two. And what I want to do is actually join these two together and solidify this model. So now that's looking pretty good. Now we made those very quick adjustments. We were able to do additional functionality with that. We pulled in the new .obj file. We were able to create end-gone edges with Freestyle. And so that's what I really wanted to show you with the concept modeling. Now I want to show you something new with our intelligent mirror. So this intelligent mirror is something that's pretty cool. It's going to allow you to mirror objects much more quickly and efficiently. So let's hide a couple things here so we can see what we're talking about. So I have this mirror within my camera, or I have this camera with that I want to mirror, excuse me. And you can see it's pretty complex. There's a lot of different components in here. And so the traditional way would be to, mirror your component, and you'd have to, maybe duplicate some parts. And that's not really useful. If you're looking at your model tree, you're going to have duplicates in there, and that's no fun. So what we did was we did this new intelligent mirror. And what I'm going to do is just select on my component. I'm going to select on the datum. And then I'll put in things like the common name. So I'll just say this is a camera mirror. And then what's really cool here is our ability to perform a symmetry analysis. And what this symmetry analysis is going to do is take a look at the model that we want to mirror, and then notice which features and which parts we can reuse. And so the system actually goes in and takes a look and says, all right, for this specific part, we're going to mirror this, or we're going to reuse it. Or, we might even exclude some things. And so this is what the system comes up with. Now, myself, if there's something that I want to override, certainly I can do that. There's a drop-down box. I can mirror, reuse, or exclude. So that's no problem. And then we can also take a look at what this looks like. So you can see when I check them all, we have the mirror in full. And let's see what's just mirrored. So it looks like we just have the outer shell as well as some other components. And let's take a look at what's reused. So it looks like a couple other additional features are being reused. But the grand total is, we're getting the same exact model being mirrored, and it's a lot easier and much more efficient way to mirror your components. So there she is, looking pretty good, and that's what we did with Intelligent Mirror. That's basically what I wanted to show you today in terms of that. So if we look back into our assembly, that's going to propagate back in. There's our Freestyle part, and we have also our camera in there as well. So the next part I want to get into is the, let's go into like the assembly portion of this. So you can notice we have this arm here, but the problem is we don't have something attaching these two. So that's a bit of a problem. So what I want to show you here is with new in Creo 4, we have some really cool features, and we kind of stepped into this a little bit with Rob, the ability to go full screen. So we can actually press this button down here or just toggle F11. So when I press that, I'm now in full screen. And then from here, if I want to access anything like the model tree, it just flies in as soon as I go over. And same with this ribbon UI. So let's go ahead and make some modifications to this. So I'm just going to simply activate this guy so we can start our sketch. So what traditionally I would do, I'd go in here, create an extrude. So I'm just selecting on these datums, or maybe even these parts, and I'm already getting options that are associated with this. So if I wanted to dimension this or edit the dimension, sketch, revolve, extrude. In our case, we're going to extrude. It's all right there. So let's go and get a nice sketch view of this. And you can see that's pretty far into our model. So we don't really get the best view. So what we introduced as well within Creo 4 is this clip model. And this is going to cut everything that's right in front of our sketch plane. And so this makes working a lot easier for us. Okay, so now I want to sketch the arm that's going to connect this. So one of the new features within Creo 4 is my ability to hold down the right mouse button and just toggle between any of these sketch tools. So this is really useful. If I want to go ahead and select, a circle here, I can select that. So remember, I have this plate activated. That's the only thing that's activated. But notice when I go and hover on some other geometry, I can actually reference this geometry on the fly. So traditionally what I could do is, I would set up within the references in the sketch, that's how that would be set up. And say you would go that way. But now I can simply just do it on the fly, and I would be able to grab this very quickly. So when I select on this, I can just, go ahead, grab this, and create a couple of different sketches. And now I need something like a line, so I just hit the right mouse button, and I continue my sketch. And let's say I want some tangency here, things like that. Okay, la-di-da-di-da. All right, so let's say I need some additional functionality that I don't have in my right mouse button. I can still hover up here and grab something like delete segment, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to delete that, and I maybe want to grab something like this. Change these dimensions up just a little bit. I can do that, and then I can say, okay, that's good. Looks like I have one problem here. That's okay. We'll just delete that, and we'll just redo that sketch real quick. Okay. Just pardon me for 1 second. All right, so again, just in case you missed it the first time, here it is. We can grab this model. We can go ahead, grab these sections, pull them up very quickly. Go ahead and again, grab our sketch, or grab our line, create tangency. Okay, so it looks like we're good now. Okay. And then delete that, make any modifications that I need to, and now we're good. And it looks like I still have a slight, oh, yeah, that's what I was missing. Gotta delete that small segment there. There we go. And then I will go ahead and just create that line and connect that guy up. Okay, now we're good. So I can accept the model off from here just by using the right mouse button and saying accept. Now one of the really cool features in here as well, now we're in the extrude ribbon, I can hit select, grab this box, and then drag it to a certain face. So that makes my life a lot easier in terms of placement. And then another really cool feature within Creo 4 is the ability to do a side to. So traditionally what you would do is, you would create an extrude, and then if you wanted to do the side to, you'd actually have to go in and create another extrude. So, I mean, it's not terribly that difficult, but we made that more efficient for our users now. So I can do that side to and select on a certain value that I want that to offset on. And so that's looking pretty good. So again, we can just hit our middle mouse button to accept that. And now I'm going to mirror this. So I'm going to go ahead and see how it's intelligently noticing that I can just grab that mirror. I'll grab a datum plane. And there we go. So now we're all set. But this is going to be taking on significant load. So let's actually take a look at this model by itself and do some further modifications. So now I can fly into my model tree and open that up by itself. Okay, so one of the really cool features within Creo 4 is the ability to create mid-planes. So I'm going to show you that now. So let's say I want to create a mid-plane between this datum plane, and this back surface. Well, I can do that. Now it's happening right in between. You can see right in this dialog box it's saying, okay, here's our two surfaces, here's the midplane that we're creating. And people have been asking about this for a while now, and we finally got around to implementing that. So that makes life a lot easier as well. So let's go ahead and beef this guy up. So we're going to take a look. And so this is a really cool way we optimize our sketcher as well. And let's move into full screen. So you can see here I'm sketching, but maybe I need some additional tools. Well, I can just go down and customize this. So I have all of my commands in here, and certainly I could go and find them, but we have this filter command that we can use. So maybe I want something like a center rectangle. I can grab on that center rectangle and then just drag it at any point where I want it. So let's say I just want it there. So I selected that, and now when I right-click, there it is in our sketch tools. So again, I'm sketching, but I never made any reference to any outside geometry. I'm only sketching on a datum plane, and look how it's noticing some of the geometry on some of these external components. So I'm able to grab those very quickly. So that just makes my life a little bit easier when I'm sketching. I don't have to go in and actually, change that up just a little bit. Okay, so that looks good. So we can accept that. And again, I'm going to go in and hold down Shift and grab this box. And again, it's recognizing this geometry, and it's taking into account the angularity that's happening here. And I could do the same for side 2. So I hold down the right mouse button, hit side 2, hold down Shift, and again, I'm able to grab these components on the fly. Now, another really cool thing that we use with extrudes is the ability to create an offset. So I'm going to create an offset for both of these guys. And let's say I just want it off like a 1/4 inch. I can do that. And you can see it's now offset a 1/4 inch. And I could do it on either direction. So I can either say cut or add more material. So there we go. And then the final thing I want to show you here is our ability to box select things. So I can go ahead and let's change this to edges. So traditionally, if you wanted to do rounds, you would have to select an edge, hold down Control, and then select all the other edges that you wanted, and then create the round. But what we can do here is actually just box select everything and say, okay, now I want a round. And there we go. Voila, there it is. Looking pretty good, so I'm just going to accept that. And there we go. Now our model is complete. And let's switch back and see what that looks like in our assembly. So there it is, nice and beefed up. We got those rounds, and we did that pretty quickly on the fly, and it's looking pretty good. So the next portion I want to move into is the new features within Multicad. So a lot of people and a lot of customers are working with file extensions that are not just Creo file extensions. They may be working with SolidWorks parts or CATIA parts, things like that. And this is nothing new. We've had Unite technology for quite a while now. So what I want to show you now is being able to pull in different types, such as like in terms of sheet metal. So I'm going to open that guy up. Okay, so we have this track part, and we want to pull in some more material. And so for the sake of this one, let's say it's a SolidWorks part. Maybe we have some kind of guard. And again, this is nothing new. This is all traditional functionality. Now, whenever this was created within SolidWorks, it was initially a sheet metal part. And so when we pulled it over, it's just a dummy file at this point. But maybe we want this to be a sheet metal part again. So we can go ahead and say, okay, let's convert that to sheet metal. And it's going to say, well, if you want to do that, we have to convert this to a Creo model, which is fine. So as that loads, let's take a look at that. So now we have our sheet metal part. And it's going to say, okay, what's going to be driving the surface? Let's get the driving surface here. So I'm going to select on that and accept it. And now the really cool feature within Creo 4 is the ability to do flexible modeling with sheet metal. This is brand new. And if you noticed, even back here, instead of having sketch or extrudes, you now have things like flatter flange, the rips, the forms, things like that. And that's true with flexible modeling too. This is different from the traditional tab. I mean, we still have things like pattern and move, things like that, but you can see things like, okay, edit the bend or edit bend relief or recognize the sheet metal objects, things like that. So I'm actually going to show you that now. So if I want to, I can go ahead and say, all right, well, I want this surface, and I want to move it out just a little bit, and let's drive it by some other dimension down here. So I'm going to go ahead and just move this. And so I wasn't able to do this within Creo 3 in terms of using sheet metal. So this is all brand new, really cool stuff. A lot of people have been asking for it, so we finally delivered. And again, we've had new options like recognizing bends reliefs, even this geometry search. These are all new functionalities within Creo 4, and this makes your life a lot easier whenever you have like extensive models and you're looking for a certain type of geometry. You can go ahead and search it and then toggle those on and off if you want to make deletes or if you want to make rounds or something of that sort. You can find that very quickly. Okay, so that's what I have in terms of multicad. Let's go ahead and move into the model-based definition side of things. Okay, so you can see I have this model, and the idea is to put some tolerance and some dimensions on this guy. So we have one-stop shop for all of our ideas instead of having the traditional way of having papers or drawings, things like that. It's all based on the model, as in model-based definition. So what we can do is take a look at all the different views here. So I have these views set up, and we're going to actually take a look at those and display them. Okay, so you can see now I have a couple dimensions that are associated with this model, but I wanted to do some tolerancing on it. So what we can do here is take a look at this Annotate tab, and this can all be done in previous versions of Creo, but what we did was really modify the user interface here so it's a lot quicker and easier for the users to be able to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and select a certain plane and then say something like, okay, we want to do a tolerance on this back guy right here. So we just simply place that down, and then we can go in and say, okay, well, we need a certain geometric characteristic. Now, notice I have the ability to select on any of these, but only a few of them in the real world are applicable and good for our standards, and that's what we want. We want to keep up with all the standards. So let's select on flatness. We can go ahead and change some of these values here. So we'll put something like that, and then we're good. And then we can also put some datum information as well. Sync that in and then say, okay, I want this to reference this specific surface. So really just making the user interface a lot easier to access things, things like that. Let's do just a couple more to give you an idea here. So what I want to do is just grab some annotations on this guy. There's a couple here, so let's select that, move it up. Okay, so again, if I wanted to do some geometric tolerance on this, I would just go ahead and select on this, and it would propagate into here. And we need to change our characteristics. So see, it's the same characteristic that I had before, but it's not applicable here. So I need something like perpendicularity. That would be more applicable. And then some new functionality that we did within Creo 4 as well is some semantic checking. So if I was to go in here and say I want to put the diameter tool in at the end, well, that doesn't follow standard, so the system's going to yell and be like, hey, you need to fix that because that's not within the standard. So let's just add a couple here. Okay. And then again, we can put in some more datums as well, and that's looking pretty good. So that's basically what's new with GD&T in terms of doing it yourself. Now, one of the really cool features that we implemented within Creo 4 is the GD&T advisor. And this is really useful for people who aren't necessarily experts in GD&T. So let's pull in a new model here and show you what I'm talking about. So we simply just go to our applications and launch that. And you'll notice once that's launched, we get our feature tree and we get an advisor tree. And this makes life a lot easier for someone who's not familiar with GD&T. So what I just simply have to go and select on tolerance feature, select on the surface, accept that surface, and then from there I have this new interface here that's going to guide me along. So I just put in the values that I want, and you'll notice here this is a geometric characteristic. Now before, I had everything at my fingertips. I could select anything I wanted and it wouldn't matter. Of course, it would be out of standard, but previously I could do that. Now with the GD&T advisor, it's actually going to hold my hand per se and say, okay, these are the only two that are applicable for this surface. And they've chosen flatness, as you can see with the asterisks. So we're going to go ahead and go with that one. And then we just accept, and there it is. So very quick, very easy. Let's take another example. Let's say I want to do a tolerance feature on this hole. So we just accept that guy. Let's move it up just a little bit so we can see it a little bit easier. Okay, and so let's say we want a tolerance of 0.002. And maybe we need some plus and minus associated with this too. So we can update the precision. So let's say that's good. And you can also change whether it is a maximum material condition or a least material condition, or if it doesn't matter, we can put that in here. And again, see, we have just a couple. These are all blanked out. And so you can see, okay, well, perpendicularity is the one I need, so we're going to go ahead and with that one. And I can accept that guy off. Let's move that just a little bit. And then again, if I need to make any additional adjustments to this, I certainly can. Let's say I want to select on this guy and add additional text. I could put that in there, no problem. So you still have the full capabilities that you had previously. This is just going to hold your hand in terms of GD&T. So let's move into the final segment here. And this is our additive manufacturing section. And we made some strides with additive manufacturing. Of course, within Creo 3, you were able to export some STLs, things of that nature. But we did some really cool stuff in terms of lattice design. So let's show you that now. So let's take a look. I have this gripper here. And let's say I want to 3D print this. But before I do, I'm a little bit worried about the mass. So I can go into my analysis tab. Let's just see, what this is looking like right now. It's looking at 0.26 pounds. I mean, that's not a lot, but maybe in this specific instance, we need to cut down a little bit on that. So let's see what we can do. So what I'm going to do here is actually just blow this all out, and so we can add a lattice. And so what I'm going to do is simply go into my engineering tab, and you'll notice now we have this lattice option. So if I select on a couple surfaces, let's pick those from a list, I can now add a lattice to that. Okay, so you can see here's a visual representation of what it is. I can size that down a little bit. And before I even make any more modifications, let's take a look at what that would look like. So here's our lattice structure. Pretty cool. It could use a little bit of TLC here. It looks like we got some edges that are just kind of flying out. Not a problem. We can still print like that, but it's not the most optimized. So let's take a look at what we can do about that. So within this shell tab, I have the ability to change quite a number of different things. So let's remove those dangling beams and see what that looks like. So now that's all set up. Nothing's dangling anymore. It's all pretty solid, looking pretty good. But let me show you some other lattice types that we have here. So of course we have our 3D lattice type. We also have this 2.5D lattice type. And I can select on which axis I want this to occur on. And we have things like regular, quasi-radial. This is pretty neat. Also herringbone. And another cool feature is the ability to go into the shell. And when you do 3D printing, you're going to have support material. And to get that support material out, you traditionally throw it into a bath. Now, if this was an external part, let's say the lattice was on the outside and visible, this isn't really a problem. But let's say you had the lattice on the inside of your part. You need a way to drain out that support material. So we can actually add those drain holes here. So you can see that's propagating into my model. And let's take a look at what that looks like. Yeah, so now we have this quasi-radial 2D lattice with drain holes. And this is really going to help us out when we actually go out to print this. Okay, so let's move back into our traditional 3D. And we'll just go with a regular here. Accept that. Okay, so I added this lattice, but did it really cut down on the mass? So let's take a look at that, because that was the whole idea, right? Take a look at the mass properties and see if it changed. And it does. It's down probably about 50% now. It's at 0.174. So that's looking pretty good. But that may not be enough. So you cut down on the material, but is it still going to have the same structural integrity that you need it to? Well, what you can do is actually launch Simulate, which is our extension, to be able to simulate all the loads and constraints on this guy to make sure it can handle everything still. So what I'm going to do here is go back into my lattice, and I'm going to simplify this geometry. And all that's going to do is allow all the simulations to run a bit faster. I'm also going to go into here and put a material in. And so what's new within Creo 4, again, is this new Grotto design library. So you can see I have ceramics, I have woods, foams. In this case, we're going to do some plastics. So I'm just going to associate that. And now we're going to launch Simulate. Okay, so now we're just, traditional Simulate. You have your setup, your operation loads, constraints, things of that nature. So we're just going to set that up real quick. Let's say we want these to be held in place, and we want to add a load to the bottom. Let's say we want a certain vector. Let's set that guy up. Okay, so now we have these constraints and loads on here. Let's actually run this analysis and make sure it can hold up to what we want it to. So we're going to do a new static analysis. And I can, change the name, description. We have our constraints in there. We have our load set in there. So it's all looking pretty good. So then we're going to run this. And we can actually take a look at what's happening here. So you can see we have our diagnostics. It's starting. It's going through the mesh. Simulate's actually creating a mesh onto our geometry. It's iterating through here. So it looks like it finished. And now we can take a look at some of the analysis that it did. Pull that down to a separate window. Okay, so now we have a visual representation of what's going on. So you can see here's the von Mises stress and where it's concentrated. We also have our displacement, what's happening here, and then max principal stresses. Again, we have all this information. We can toggle between other things here if we want displacement, magnitude, stress, strain, things of that nature. So in this case, it's looking pretty good. I feel pretty confident that it's still within our constraints for the structural integrity that we want. So let's actually go ahead and print this guy now. So I'm just going to change this lattice back and pull it at full geometry. Wait for that to load in. Okay, looking pretty good. So within Creo 3, you were able to prepare a 3D print, and what that would basically do is allow you to set up an STL file. But within Creo 4, you now have the ability to order your 3D print. So you can see we have this ability to grab from any type of online 3D printing service. And so we're just going to prepare one for now. Okay, so you can see here's our table that we're working with. Here's our model, and it's not in the best position. So what I can do is just select on auto position, and it's going to set up pretty nicely there. Before we print this out, we don't want to waste our time if we have things like thin walls or narrow, if it's too narrow, things like that. So let's actually take a look at our printability validation. So we can actually check if there's going to be thin walls. And you can set that up based on thicknesses, things like that. And then you can compute that. So we have a minimum wall thickness of 0.7 and a tolerance of 0.07. And that's going to spit out, okay, do we have any thin walls happening here? It's going to say yes, it's violated. So we may have to take that into account. But it's good to know now rather than later whenever you actually print this out and spend money on it. Now you can go back and fix it. I can also pattern this guy out. So let's say I want to do multiples of this. Okay, I can either fill the entire tray, or I could go and say, okay, I want a specific direction and I just want a couple. So let's put in like 3. Okay, so now you're going to see these are overlapping, and this is pretty obvious that they're overlapping, but sometimes you get models that there's just small sections that you can't tell. And what you can actually do is a global interference, and you can preview that and say, okay, which parts are overlapping, and get a real good idea. So you can say, okay, definitely overlapping, we better move those. So then I can go ahead and just hit the auto position, and that'll fix it all up for me. I can have the system take care of that. Okay, so let's actually get to the final step and preview our 3D print. So we have our model sitting in our table. Let's take a look at the support material. So this is how the support material is going to add into our process, and then we can actually go through the process. So it's going to start out with just the base. The support material is going to be created. Then we have our model until it's completed. So now we have a pretty good idea of what's going on, and now we have all the information at our fingertips, so we know exactly what's going to be printed, and this is all thanks to the new functionality within Creo 4. So that's basically what I had to show you guys today in terms of new functionality. If you have any questions, feel free to ask now.
Jonathan, that was a nice job. I think you I think you covered a lot in record time, actually.
Thank you.
That was good stuff. Yeah, I think that's interesting how Creo 4.0 makes the adjustments for 3D print for support materials for 3D printing. I know that there's quite a few 3D printers do need to use support materials. There are quite a few that do not need the support materials, but for example, we're a reseller for a company called Mark Forged, which their 3D print materials are nylon reinforced with Kevlar, carbon fiber, or fiberglass. And I can tell you that being able to do a lattice mesh in your design is going to be very helpful for those specific 3D printers as well. Because they actually, what's interesting about those 3D printers is they print in hollow parts. So your parts are printed in a mesh so that they're lighter, and then you have the reinforcement of the composite material, which gives it similar properties to T6 aluminum. So you don't have to make a metal prototype. You can make a plastic one that's reinforced, which is kind of cool. But I think the point is, like, we have experience with also the Stratasys printers with the support materials, and I think that's a really nice feature within Creo 4.0 to be able to do that.
Definitely.
So at this time, if you have any questions, we don't have any questions coming in as of yet, but now's the time to put them in. I'd like to ask our panelists if they have anything that they would like to add. I know that Jim Gilmore from 3HTI has joined us, and Jim is one of our sales reps, but Jim has been doing this for a little over 20 years. He was with PTC before he came to 3HTI, and he's got a tremendous amount of knowledge when it comes to product development. So, Jim, is there anything that you'd like to add at this time?
No, not really. A lot of very powerful stuff. I thought that people would jump to Creo 3 a lot quicker than 4 because of the Unite technology and all that unique functionality, but I've had a record number of customers go to 4.0 already. A couple customers in the heavy equipment industry for the solid welds. Mechanica or Creo Simulate will pick up those solid welds and doing the simulations and the connections associated with them. So that's unique to that. But most people are excited about all the UI enhancements. So that seems to be the comments I'm getting back right now.
So it's the UI enhancements and the being able to model the solid welds.
Well, yeah, that's only for a couple of heavy equipment customers. Yeah. I know there's a lot of interest and excitement around that. But, I guess my main comment is most customers are jumping to this because of the user interface.
That's good to hear. I know it's interesting when you mentioned about the Unite technology, because it's funny because when you get one-on-one with a customer and you explain it to them and they get it, they're amazed. They're like, really? I can bring in a CATIA file, a SOLIDWORKS file. I don't need a translator. And I think it's one of those things where it's marketed by us, it's marketed by PTC to to the masses. But I think when somebody actually sits down and sees it, I think that's when it really clicks for them, because that is a tremendous technology.
Yeah, most people can't get away from Multicad. So I had one customer, they have to accept native CATIA files, or in the automotive industry, they have to accept native CATIA and native Siemens files, and they're able to do that now with Creo without having to buy translators or without having to buy CATIA or Siemens, and they can have one CAD platform. The unique thing about Unite technology, you can have a Creo assembly with parts from SOLIDWORKS, CATIA, Siemens, and all in one Creo assembly as native parts. And when those parts update outside of Creo, they update within Creo and anything you've built off that, models, assemblies, tooling, etc.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then as was demonstrated. When you want to modify the part, you just turn it into a Creo part and you can modify it. So very powerful.
It took a couple of years for people to catch on to flexible modeling too, and I really also like, Jonathan, what you showed with freestyle. In being, if somebody is using Rhino, I mean, personally, I think that freestyle replaces any of those other type of design tools, because it's pretty tremendous. But if somebody has a file from those other tools and it recognizes, imports the mesh, that's pretty amazing. That's definitely going to be a time saver, and I like the updates there as well.
Yeah, definitely. We've heard that from, I mean, even when I was demoing Creo 3, people were asking for that. I'm like, just wait, it's coming out for Creo 4. Just give it some time. A lot of people like that. Makes life a lot easier.
Well, what I'll say is, I really like the fact that there's not a release every single year. It's, the last, I'd say Creo 2, Creo 3, and Creo 4 have been excellent releases, and not necessarily something that was rushed to get out because you got to release a new version of software every year, but something that was thoughtful and actually really true updates to each version that are significantly make improvements to help people model and develop products better and faster. So I'm excited about this release. This is great stuff. We're going to do this again at the end of February. I'll send an email out to everybody if they want to see this again. But like, as I mentioned, every week starting February, I believe it's the 6th, we are going to, I'm sorry, February 10th. Actually, the 3rd is going to start. I apologize, February 3rd. Every week we're going to have these demos on Fridays at 2. So you'll get the invitations and hopefully you can join us. So at this time, we're going to be dismissed from the webinar. I'd like to thank Andrew Harrison for being with us, as well as Jim Gilmore and also Jonathan Conklin. Thank you very much for a great presentation and all your time together. If you have any questions, you can respond to me directly through the email invite that you received or the confirmation for your webinar. If you respond to that, the emails come to me, or you can contact your 3HTI representative. Or our general email box is info@3hti.com. So once again, thanks everyone for being on, and enjoy your weekend. Take care.